On any given Tuesday, the screens of the continental United States are flooded with artificial panic. Local news anchors dress in heavy parkas, dramatically warning of a 3-inch snowfall in Ohio. Emergency sirens are tested over minor rainstorms in Texas, and tickers scroll across the screen warning of light flooding on a secondary highway in Oregon. We have built an information apparatus that treats routine weather as an existential crisis, spending billions of dollars to alert millions of citizens about the routine, predictable movements of the seasons. But while the mainland panics over a spring breeze, the most critical piece of American strategic soil on the planet is silent. Subscribe to Deep Space Signal to track these global events, and let us explore the mechanics of our changing world together. 7,000 miles away, in the deep isolation of the Western Pacific, a ticking time bomb is waiting to detonate. Imagine the air pressure dropping with terrifying speed, the sensors registering sustained winds of 167 miles per hour. A Category 5 Super Typhoon is forming, its massive, rotating eye wider than the cities it is about to consume. Yet, the news feeds remain blank. The media is looking at the wrong map. This is not a distant foreign tragedy. This is a highly probable scenario for Guam, a territory of the United States. 200,000 American citizens, living under the protection of the same flag, are trapped on a piece of volcanic rock, entirely vulnerable to a catastrophic failure. In a local grocery store in Hagatia, a mother stacks bottles of water into a cart, looking through the glass doors at a sky that is still deceptively blue. She checks her phone. There are no national headlines about her home. The mainland is arguing about local politics. The countdown is running and the silence from the media is deafening. But the wind is only the beginning of the trap. The real danger is a hidden infrastructure failure waiting to snap shut in exactly 3 minutes. To understand why Guam matters, you have to look past the tropical beaches and directly into the minds of Pentagon planners. This small island is home to Andersen Air Force Base, which is not just another military installation. It is the absolute linchpin of American military power projection in the entire Indo-Pacific. From this single strip of concrete, the United States can deploy its entire strategic bomber fleet, B-1B Lancers, B-2 Spirits, and the legendary B-52 Stratofortresses. It is the strategic hammer designed to hold massive adversaries in check across the vast Pacific theater. If a conflict breaks out in Asia, Andersen is where the bombers take off, refuel, and coordinate. The United States has spent tens of billions of dollars constructing massive, hardened concrete hangars, deep fuel depots, and advanced satellite communications arrays to turn this island into what commanders call an unsinkable aircraft carrier. But this colossal fortress has a fatal flaw. An aircraft carrier cannot fight if its engines are dead, and a modern military base cannot operate if it has no power. Andersen AFB, with all its high-tech radars, command suites, and nuclear-capable hangars, is entirely dependent on the fragile civil infrastructure of Guam. The base is not a self-sustaining island. It is tethered to the same grid that powers the local homes. In a time of war, a physical adversary trying to attack Andersen would face layers of missile shields, advanced Patriot batteries, and naval interceptors. But nature does not care about air defense. A Category 5 storm is a physical attack on the entire island's life support systems, targeting the one thing the military forgot to insulate: the power grid. And that grid is a ticking time bomb running on machinery built during the Cold War. The power grid of Guam is not a modern engineering marvel. It is a fragile museum of mid-20th century technology. The entire island, including the strategic radar installations of the U.S. military, relies on the Cabras power plant, specifically the Cabras 1 and 2 steam generators. These massive machines are 50 years old, operating far past their intended engineering life. They are held together by the dedication of local technicians, custom machine spare parts, and sheer hope. This is a grid that already struggles on a clear sunny day. Scheduled blackouts and sudden voltage drops are a routine part of life for the 200,000 residents. But when a major storm approaches, this aging metal giant becomes a fatal trap. We do not have to guess what happens when a major typhoon hits this obsolete infrastructure. The universe already gave us a clear warning. In May 2023, Typhoon Mawar, a Category 4 storm, swept across Guam. Within hours, the power grid did not just fail, it collapsed completely. Over 98% of the island was plunged into total darkness. Water treatment plants stopped working because there was no electricity to run the pumps. Communication towers died as their backup batteries drained. Andersen Air Force Base was forced to rely entirely on its emergency diesel generators, burning through fuel reserves while the rest of the island went black. It took weeks for power to be restored to critical military areas and months for the general public to get their lights back. Mawar was a Category 4. The monster approaching now is a Category 5, with sustained winds of 167 miles per hour, a storm that will make Mawar look like a dress rehearsal. But why is this happening now, in April of all months? The answer lies in a silent thermal anomaly in the ocean. April in the western Pacific is supposed to be a quiet time. Climatologically, the ocean is recovering from winter, and the wind shear is usually too strong for major storms to organize. It is a month of calm transitions, but this year the physics of the Pacific have broken the rules. A Category 5 Super Typhoon in April is not just rare, it is a massive atmospheric anomaly. To understand how this monster formed, you have to look deep beneath the waves. The sea surface temperatures in the warm pool around Micronesia are registering a thermal anomaly reaching over 30 degrees Celsius. This is deep, warm water heated by a rapid and unexpected transition to El Niño. The ocean is not just warm on the surface. The heat reservoir extends hundreds of feet down, creating an endless supply of thermal energy. When the storm entered this region, it experienced what meteorologists call rapid intensification. The storm's maximum wind surged by 83 kilometers per hour in less than 36 hours. In the language of physics, the ocean became a superheated boiler, feeding the storm's central engine with massive amounts of moisture and heat. The storm's central pressure plummeted, drawing in air from all directions and spinning it into a tight, destructive column. This is not a normal weather system. It is a thermodynamic machine operating at maximum efficiency, turning ocean heat into kinetic destruction. It is heading directly for Guam at a speed that gives the residents very little time to prepare. But as the atmosphere prepares to unleash its fury, the earth beneath the island is beginning to move, creating a double nightmare. Guam is not just a vulnerable dot in the ocean. It is the tip of a giant underwater mountain range. The island sits directly on the edge of the Mariana Trench, the deepest subduction zone on the planet. Here, the massive Pacific plate is slowly sliding beneath the Philippine Sea Plate, creating immense geological friction. It is a place of constant tectonic stress, where the Earth's crust is locked in a slow, violent struggle. And as the Super Typhoon approaches, the seismographs are starting to twitch. A series of magnitude 5.0 earthquakes begin to rattle the seabed directly beneath the approaching storm. While a 5.0 earthquake is normally manageable on land, occurring simultaneously with a Category 5 typhoon changes the mathematics of survival. The shaking threatens to crack concrete foundations already under pressure from the wind, and it compromises the structural integrity of emergency shelters. Landslides on the steep volcanic hills of the island become a critical threat, potentially blocking the only roads that connect the civilian population to the safety of the north. This is the tectonic sandwich. The atmosphere is pressing down with winds of 167 miles per hour, while the earth is shifting beneath, threatening to rupture the very ground the residents stand on. If the power grid goes down now, the isolation will be absolute. There will be no search and rescue ships, no relief planes, and no communications. The island will be a dark fortress cut off from the rest of the world, left to face the double crisis alone. And then, the first generator at the Cabras plant begins to fail. At 6:05 on the first evening, the system breaks. In the control room of the Cabras power plant, warning lights flash red. The 50-year-old steam turbine number 1 begins to vibrate violently, its worn bearings unable to handle the sudden voltage fluctuations. Within seconds, a safety valve blows, filling the hall with superheated steam. The automatic safety systems, slow and outdated, trip the generator to prevent a catastrophic mechanical explosion. The electrical burden shifts entirely to turbine number 2, but the aging machinery cannot handle the double load. It trips immediately. In a fraction of a second, the island's primary power source is gone. The lights in the supermarkets, the air conditioners in the hotels, and the water treatment pumps across Guam turn off. A massive blackout sweeps the territory, plunging 200,000 people into darkness. At Andersen Air Force Base, the sudden loss of municipal power triggers emergency protocols. Massive diesel generators inside the hardened concrete bunkers start up with a deafening roar, black smoke billowing from exhaust vents. The military's critical command systems, satellite arrays, and runway lights switched to backup power, surviving the initial drop. But the civilian infrastructure is not so lucky. The hospital in Tectonic is forced to rely on its own aging generator, and the local communications towers begin their countdown. The backup batteries in the cell towers are designed to last only 4 hours. When they die, the civilian population will lose all connection to the outside world. Just as the worst of the storm arrives, the night is pitch black and the rain is falling in sheets. By the third day, the crisis is no longer a meteorological event. It is a slow, silent struggle for survival. The storm has passed, but the silence it left behind is heavy. The municipal water pumps, dry for 72 hours, have emptied the storage tanks. There is no water flowing through the pipes. The backup generators that kept the critical water pumps running have run out of diesel. Their tanks dry because the roads are blocked by fallen trees and power lines. In a dark, humid hotel room in Tumon Bay, a stranded tourist stares at their phone. The screen is dead, its battery long gone. They reach for their wallet, pulling out a credit card. But in a world with no electricity and no cellular network, that card is just a useless piece of plastic. The digital cash we rely on, the databases that hold our wealth, have vanished. Without power, the local stores cannot scan barcodes, cannot process transactions, and cannot open their electronic registers. Money has lost its meaning in a matter of days. The tourist walks down to the lobby, finding a crowd of panicked people arguing with the staff. The air is thick, hot, and heavy with moisture. Outside, the tropical sun is beating down on the concrete buildings, turning them into ovens. This is the reality of modern vulnerability. We have built a society that assumes the grid will always be there, that a signal will always connect our devices. But when the wires break, we are left with nothing but the concrete walls of our cities, trapping us in a humid prison. And at the north end of the island, the military is discovering that its unsinkable aircraft carrier has been neutralized. At Andersen Air Force Base, the strategic hammer of the Pacific is silent. The storm's intense rain bands in the ionized atmosphere have created a temporary barrier that blocks satellite signals. The high-gain antennas designed to link the base directly to the Pentagon and coordinate complex flight operations are blind. The radar screens inside the command bunkers are filled with green static. For the first time in decades, the United States has lost its eyes in the most strategic theater on the planet. The B-52 and B-2 bombers, the core of American nuclear deterrence in the region, are grounded. The hardened concrete hangars protected them from the crushing wind, but the runways are littered with debris, sheet metal, and uprooted trees. Without power, the automated fuel pumping stations cannot fill the aircraft, and the runway lights cannot guide them. A multi-billion-dollar military force is effectively neutralized by a failure of civil power. The base cannot launch missions, cannot receive supplies, and cannot communicate with the fleets at sea. This is the strategic lesson of Guam. We have spent trillions of dollars building advanced aircraft, satellites, and precision weaponry. But all of this technology is ultimately dependent on the same copper wires, old generators, and simple logistics that support the civilian population. If the island fails, the base fails. The illusion of a self-sustaining military fortress is shattered by the simple physics of a Category 5 storm. The Pentagon planners are forced to realize that the threat is not just a missile from an adversary. It is the fragility of the ground beneath their feet. As the satellite cameras look down from orbit, the clouds over the western Pacific slowly begin to clear. The Category 5 storm is moving away, leaving behind a silent, dark island. From space, Guam is a black silhouette against the glowing ocean, its artificial lights completely extinguished. The contrast is stark. We have spent centuries building a global technological network, creating the illusion that we have mastered the Earth. We have mapped every square inch of the planet, launched thousands of satellites, and built military fortresses that can project power across oceans. We believe we are in control, but the physics of the planet do not care about our treaties, our borders, or our strategic plans. The atmosphere does not recognize the flag flying over Andersen Air Force Base. The tectonic plates under the Mariana Trench do not care about the geopolitical balance of power. The universe is entirely indifferent to our technology. A simple shift in ocean temperature, a sudden El Niño transition, and the slow movement of tectonic plates are enough to dismantle our most advanced infrastructure in a matter of days. We are a fragile species living on a dynamic, violent planet, holding onto a thin wire of electricity. Guam is not an isolated incident. It is a massive warning. It proves that our security and survival are ultimately dependent on physical systems that are far older and far more powerful than anything we have ever built. We are not the masters of the Earth. We are merely guests holding on to a thin wire of electricity. Which brings us to the ultimate question for you to answer in the comments. If you were the commander of Andersen Air Force Base during a total collapse, and you only had enough backup fuel for a few days, do you prioritize keeping the military radars online, or do you divert that power to keep the civilian hospital running? Let me know your strategy down below. If a single localized storm can blind the most advanced military force on Earth, what happens when the threat doesn't come from the ocean, but from the sun itself? The ultimate grid collapse is already brewing in space. Click the video on your screen right now to see exactly how a super solar storm will reset our civilization. I'll see you there.